This is Tiger Cats Postgame on the Ticats Audio Network.
Well, Andy, I can tell you, last time we hosted a West Coast Tiger Cats postgame show, it was after a tough loss in Saskatchewan. I'm feeling this one's going to be a lot more fun, despite the time nearing 1 a.m. Lots to get into here on Tiger Cats postgame.
Yeah, lots to talk about and a lot of positive things with the Cats. What a win. Their last real road trip and possibly of the entire year. I mean, they have to go down to QEW in a couple weeks, but if they win and keep playing this way, it could be possible that's their only game outside of Tim Hortons Field the rest of the way. So fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, well said. Lots coming up here on Tiger Cats postgame. We'll get exclusive access to the coaching room with Coach O. We'll be joined by Don Jackson. We'll name our performer of the game. We'll get some alumnus analysis with Jamall Johnson. He'll stop by and we'll revisit Andy's CarStar keys to victory. Where do you want to start with this one? Because Jeremiah Masoli, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns. Really kind of getting the ball all over the field. 8 different receivers used tonight. Don Jackson, 16 carries, 120 yards, just 3 yards short of his career high, but that is the second most he's gotten in his CFL career. Defensively, they showed up, 4 sacks. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's
pick your poison.
You said Mazzoli first. Let's start there. So, very like the chunk yards that they were getting this game. It was incredible. The ball was being sprayed all over the field, and the receivers were there making plays and not only catching the ball, but fighting for those extra yards and running hard. You look down the receiving list here, and you've got 7 different receivers catching balls here, and nobody reached over 100 yards, surprisingly, but 4 of them over 50 yards and 1 at 48. So very good, very well distributed, and that's tough to stop for a defense when you're having so many different people beat you. So great job by Mazzoli to manage the game. I'm sure he's going to come on and be the first one to tell you that, yeah, he left a few out there as well. He was 17 for 24, and a couple of them slightly underthrown and one overthrown, but still very, very well played game, and it's nice to see Jeremiah string a couple wins together like that. Yeah,
and, just taking a look defensively, we mentioned the sacks, but how about this? James Wilder Jr. was held to a season low 39 yards on the ground. His previous low coming into this was 43. Defensively doing a great job, and you and I mentioned this. They lost Sirocco. They lost Yarborough. Julian House, there was a game-time decision. He couldn't go. Cam Kelly was ejected. They lost Valentin Ganua. They lost Brandon Banks. I mean, they were thin by the end, especially at the offensive line where rookie Coulter Woodmansey had to slide in at center. And we saw Jeremiah get sacked once that happened. Jesse Gibbon comes into the game. Coulter Woodmansey moves over, but we're just real quick on the offensive line for the Ticats, because Chris Van Zyl, Brandon Reverberg, Travis Vorncall, and when they were healthy, they did a really good job. And even afterwards, your leading rusher, Don Jackson, deserves a lot of credit, but you don't get that work done without the offensive line in front of you. And 120 yards for Don Jackson, Jeremiah scrambling for a few more. They are usually the first to be criticized when things don't go well on the offensive line. I think they deserve a lot of praise here tonight.
Yeah, let's give them some props. The Elks had 2 sacks, but in my opinion, they were more coverage sacks than anything. It's not like the man just got beat up front and it was just a clear go to the quarterback. Mazzoli was looking downfield, went through a couple reads, then tried to scramble and got sacked. So they did their job, the offensive line. And you look at those running stats, and there were holes. There were places to run, and that's what really ended up controlling this game, especially in the second half. They were able to keep stringing together first downs in the running game and just let the clock kind of wind down, and that's what you want. That's how you want to win games. Is at your own. You want to control the way you win and finish the game like that. So, offensive line played outstanding tonight.
Yeah, we're taking a look here. So the 120 yards is, of course, the first 100-yard rusher for the Ticats this season. You'd have to go back to November 2nd, 2019. Cameron Marshall, in the last week of the season, he was able to get 109 yards and 2 touchdowns on the Toronto Argonauts. So great performance from Don Jackson. He'll join us in just a little bit. Defensively, they're going to want those touchdowns back. But again, Pro Cup comes into the game. The only 2 touchdowns they allow are on 1-yard quarterback sneaks from the 1-yard line. Defensively, they're going to be happy with the way they played, considering all the injuries, considering they lost Cam Kelly. And I thought, Katsantonis, Stavros stepped in that free safety spot when Tunde came up to fill that linebacker spot. What did you see defensively that really clicked for this Ticats team?
Well, they were playing really, really well in the first half and into the third quarter, and then I think they got a little bit lax there at the end and were allowing those chunk plays. They were playing more of a, don't get beat over top type of thought mentality, but they were allowing the Elks to kind of move the ball down in some decent chunks and ended up getting down to the 1-yard line 2 drives in a row there and punching it in. So, I didn't love seeing that there, but in the first half, they were loading the box. We talked about this before the game, and they were a lot of times they did bring the pressure with cover 0, and they were doing some of those zone blitzes. But regardless, they were forcing the Elks to throw the ball because they had 7 or 8 guys lined up ready to stop the run, and the Elks just weren't able to do that. They were missing throws, they were dropping balls, there was pressure, they passed deflections. So that's the kind of football that I love to see out of the Ticats. I love that pressure defense, and they're going to need to continue that in the following 3 games here to finish the season. Yeah,
and even one of those big completions to Ellingson, Simone still got his hand on it at the line, just happened to not get enough on it, and it went right to Ellingson for he finished the game with 101 yards. The Ticats still without a 100-yard receiver this season. Tim White, the closest tonight, 89 for a touchdown. And let's give a shout-out to Tyler Tranowski, a good Hamilton boy who made his first career CFL catch, and it was a beauty.
It was. Was it not the first play of the half too?
The second half.
He came into the inside receiver position there and just kind of ran like a simple over pattern and kind of went past the linebacker, and they just forgot about him. And Mazzoli put a little bit of too much air on it, so he had to wait for it a bit, but he still, he was wide open. He made a nice catch, and then he was able to actually make a pretty slick little move to avoid that tackle and gain an extra 10 yards. So very impressive first real action play there for Tranowski, and 48-yard pickup on the play.
Speaking of impressive, what number is more impressive to you? The Ticats 182 yards on the ground or 357 through the air without Braylon Addison, without Brandon Banks in the second half? Which We'll get your answer on that in just a second. Right now, though, we're going to get exclusive access to the coaching room. Time to check in with Coach O, presented by Access Storage. Coach, someone has once told me that it is hard to win football games, especially on the road. Cold weather stadium, first time you've had to face that. How did you manage to make it look easy tonight?
Well, I don't know about those wordings there, but I will say that I'm super proud of our football team. I thought that we were mentally and physically prepared, and that's just part of it. You always have to go out and execute, and we were able to do that in, I think, 3 phases today.
Coach, especially in the first half, the physicality was not comparable between the two teams, and then it ended up getting a little chippy there at the end. What happened, and what did you say to the guys at halftime to sort of keep your discipline under control in the second half?
Well, it's a fine line between not backing down and then taking silly penalties, right? So I didn't want to lose the aggressiveness that we started. But I also told them that the goal here is not to win arguments and chippiness and pushing matches, but to win the game. And I was proud of our guys for that. I mean, obviously, there's some things we could have done better, but I like to coach off of wins versus losses.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned the adversity of this team. You guys lost a total of 5 players who had started this game, ejections, injuries, including at offensive line, in which you had to have Coulter Woodmansey, the rookie, go in at center. You have to be impressed from what you saw in that offensive line, considering everything that it's kind of been through this season. Just your overall assessment of what you saw from them tonight.
Again, an understatement is of how proud I am of our football team. We played shorthanded to start with due to injuries, so not everybody made the trip. And then we were down a bunch of players, and I understand that injuries are part of the game, but I felt like people stepped up and didn't flinch, and that's what I meant by that earlier. So, I can't say enough. I'm just so proud of this team. They just find a way to keep battling adversity and trying to execute to the best way they can. So. Very, very happy and proud of them for this win tonight.
It's going to be a much more enjoyable plane ride than it would be if you had lost. But how do you keep this momentum going into the final 3 games of the season here?
We're not even worried about it right now. We're going to enjoy this win. It's hard to win football games. Nobody gives you any wins. We're going to enjoy this one, and the momentum or anything that's left over, we'll take that into the film room, and then we'll take it out to the practice field. So I'll have a better answer for you on day 1.
Well said, Coach. And enjoy the night. Enjoy the trip home.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That is Coach Joe. Exclusive access to the coaching room presented by Access Storage. It is hard to win football games. It was Coach O who had told me that. But, I mean, again, I think they made it look easy tonight. They were the better team by a mile and a half, I think. 521 yards on offense compared to just 320 for the Edmonton Elks, and a lot of that coming in that final drive, playing preventative defense. But, they did step up. They almost had a third and goal shutdown there. But we didn't get to it with Coach, and I didn't think it was the right – but, I mean, penalties were an issue. 16 penalties taken by the Ticats for 160 yards, 15 taken by the Elks. It was an emotional game. Like, what do you remember about playing emotional games like this, where it just does seem like chippiness is happening after every single play?
Well, you know what I loved about what Coach O said is there's a fine line between what was the way he said it? But he said a fine line between staying disciplined and then sticking up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what happened during that big scrum there when Wilder got up and tried to spear basically Simone and drive him back 10 yards. Like, you could see his hands were up for the first couple yards and he's getting pulled, and then he's like, well, I'm not just going to get slammed right now. I'm going to defend myself. And yeah, there were a few unnecessary penalties. Like, obviously spitting on somebody there's no place for that ever in football. But you gotta stand up for yourself, stand up for your teammates. And so I could totally understand what he's saying with that. But some of the earlier penalties on the special teams are what hurt. But again, those are we're going to have
little
to clean
things,
this up.
nitpicking at a 39-23 win. All right, now we go to the locker room and connect with Don Jackson. His exclusive post-game interview is presented by Access Storage. Don,
what's up, baby?
I'm so excited that we got you here tonight because I am just so thrilled for you, man. 120 yards on the ground, 16 carries. You got that touchdown at the end. What are you feeling right now, brother?
Man, I feel great. I can't lie to you. This is one of the greatest feelings in the world, to be able to get out with my dudes and put some stuff on the field and run through some gaps and break some tackles, and it was fun, man. It was really fun to come out here and get a win.
Don, it was so Andy here. It's so great to see how hard you were running. Sometimes you get stopped or be a little patient right at the line of scrimmage, and then just have this burst going through there. But how much credit do you give to the offensive line for
Man, the whole thing? I mean, look, it's simple. We already know how running the ball is. It's simple. If we can't get those pieces up front, there's no run game. So it's a credit to the entire offensive line. It's a credit to Nico. It's a credit to the receivers. it's a credit to Soley when he on replays when he would pull it, he would run to make the defense have to steal. We'll have to worry about him. So it's all a credit to my teammates simply because all I had to do was run. All I had to do was run and run hard.
But how nice is it, though, to be able to drive down the field at the end of the game and string together some first downs, give your defense a rest in the fourth quarter when any kind of momentum that the Elks are getting just kind of fizzles out because of that? Like, how great is it just to be able to finish the game with the offensive on the field?
It's wonderful because that's been our main focus every time we go back to the drawing board every week. We want to make sure that we finish these games, and that's what's gonna give us the momentum to finish throughout the year. So if we keep today the standard and keep going just like this, man, I can't even tell you what's next.
Don, you've been a part of championship teams before in the Canadian Football League. When you go back and look at the attributes of winning teams, what stands out to you about this Ticats group that is something in common with, let's say, that Stamps group that you helped take to the Grey Cup?
Resilience for sure. This is a team that love each other. That's what you need. I haven't even been on the field, and this team loves me as if I was playing every single week. You know what I mean? So to be able to have that type of love between your teammates and that brotherhood, that's what helps us take that next step. The X's and O's always end up taking care of itself, but we got to just make sure that we're a tight-knit group. We know how to handle adversity, and that's what helps us moving forward.
Don, great game, man. Appreciate you checking in with us afterwards. Thank you.
Louie, Andy, I appreciate both of y'all, man. Stay blessed. Peace and love.
Yeah, you too.
Enjoy, bro.
Don Jackson, exclusive post-game interview presented by Access Storage. And, hey, you know what? We should have done this while we had him. Now I feel bad because we just had him, and we should have named him our performer of the game, presented by Hercules Tire, Ride on Our Strength. We should have told him that we were going to name him our performer of the game, and I'm even taking your moment here because, you usually get to name him, but
all good. Yeah, Don Jackson is our performer of the game. 16 carries, 120 yards, 7.5 yard average, a long of 18. So that tells me he's picking up a chunk every single time he's touching the ball. Pretty much, and including a touchdown to really seal out the game. And it wasn't you got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line. They're pushing people around, but he's not just running 10 yards before getting hit. He's running through arm tackles. He's giving bursts, making nice moves. Like he was just to watch in the game. He, to me, was the most aggressive and physical player, ball carrier on the field, and very deserving of the player of the game.
All right, let's revisit your CarStar keys to victory, Andy, while we're here. And let's start with number one.
Defensive pressure was number one.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and that one is a big check mark for me. They were loading the box. The first half was just picture perfect the way I was kind of how I was describing what I meant by defensive pressure. It was perfect because they were forcing the Elks to throw the ball and everything was contested, whether it was short passes, long passes, wide receiver screens. They're getting at the quarterback. Some of the blitzes they were faking and pulling out. So big check mark there. Great job, defensive pressure. That's the kind of defensive football I love to see.
Yeah, they were great. Dylan Wynn wanted that third tackle, and or that third sack. So yeah, I like that one. Do you have another CarStar key to victory for us here?
Number 2 was better starting field position, and this one to me, I'm gonna just kind of give a neutral, because they were obviously the better team in the game, and they got a lot more first downs, so they were able to punt from better position, but they didn't necessarily have any quality special teams work, in my opinion, and they took some penalties, so to me, that one, I'm just going to give a neutral.
Yeah, and I understand that I mean, Jeff Reinbold is in a tough spot, man. And we're talking about guys like, Malden was so huge on special teams a week ago. Now he's got to be tagged into duty on that offensive line. You lose Ganua. We saw Malik Carney play offensive line. He came in on that 2nd and 1 that 3rd and 1, big conversion in the fourth quarter with Dane Evans. Yeah, thank you. I agree. And then for number 3, I honestly cannot remember the last football game I watched, any football game I watched, where there were no turnovers. What? No. Yeah. Number 3 was win the turnover battle.
Yeah, not even a 3rd down turnover. There was nothing in the game. So another
a shrug.
Yeah, another shrug. But I'll still give a check mark just because they did not turn over the ball. So Mazzoli's taking care of the football, making good decisions, and there was one fumble in there that they were able to recover. So I'm going to take that check mark away and give it back to a neutral.
Yeah, that's right.
But you got to give Mazzoli credit for not forcing any bad throws, and give that line credit for not having any throws under pressure. Weird game with no turnovers there. That's pretty wild.
This is going to be a really ridiculous statement, but I mean, at what point does Jeremiah Masoli start to get into the East MOP conversation if he can do something special in these last 3 games? Because he's done something special these past 3 games. I know those first 2 games. I know but I mean, nobody in the East has really kind of stepped out to me so far this season. All right.
I think you gotta look around the other options, and maybe you're right. But it's hard.
It's hard to argue with that former Ticats quarterback who's ripping it up in Winnipeg. But I just think now he's going to be at 1,700 yards now at this season. He's really throwing the ball well down the field. So who knows? I'm just throwing it out there because it's 1 a.m. and maybe it's just a crazy idea. But who knows? All right, time to get some alumnus analysis. Jamall Johnson, JJ's here with us. Jamall, your overall assessment on what you watched with the Ticats tonight?
Oh man, it's beautiful football. From the start, things kind of got out, a little tricky at the end, right? But from the start of the game, I just love how, I played linebacker, right? And so I like a physical game. I like how the offensive line, came out and set the tone early. They established a running game early, and then the passing game kind of just flowed off that. They had Edmonton on their heels, I think, for the majority of the game, and Mazzoli was able to just kind of just go out there and just toss that thing around. And I think Tommy might have had a beautiful game plan set up on offense. Last time I was on with you guys, the offense, I think that was Jeremiah's first game back, and things were kind of shaky. But it looks like they're starting to put things together and get hot at the right time of the season, man.
Yeah, speaking of last time, just to remind you, we are live on air, Jamall. So
we got the bleep button ready.
What was your favorite play of the game?
My favorite play? Oh man,
or point in the game. It could have been the fight. I don't know. What was your what was the most intriguing part for you?
I got 2 things on offense. Like I said, I love how Mazzoli's competing and playing beautiful football at the quarterback position. Watching the game from my perspective, looks like I mentioned Tommy. Looks like they had a game plan. They attacked those dudes on the strong side, on the wide side of the field. And I know it's a long throw for quarterbacks to make some of the throws. He was making a couple corner routes, but Jeremiah was putting that ball out there beautiful. So his play altogether, and the 6 touchdown pass, it was kind of tipped. And then I think what's the guy's name? Not Jack.
Tim White.
The running back. Tim White, kind of the concentration to go ahead and finish that play. So on offense, that play I thought was really, really cool. And yeah, I just the defense was flying around hitting. I like when Simone came up and hit, laid a couple of nice hits. So yeah, the fight was fun. I think it was uncalled for. I don't think that was I know Simone kind of. I like the way he plays football. I mentioned that to you last time I talked to you, and I think that was a bang play, and I don't think he meant that anything maliciously. I know they had a little
kind of series of things going on, 2 or 3 plays in a row there that led up to that. But the fight was fun to watch. That guy, like Simone, it looks like he almost choke Wilder out there.
Yeah, Wilder was going for like the suplex or something. He was throwing him back like 10 yards there. And like Coach had mentioned that he loves to see the aggressiveness, but he doesn't like to see it get into, that undisciplined play when you're hurting your team. So how did you kind of balance that especially in a game like this where both sides are chipping back and forth? Maybe you're playing against someone you don't necessarily like, which it looked like that's what Wilder and Simone were getting into. But how did you kind of toe that line between, I really don't like these guys and I want to translate that into my hits?
Just the nature of the game is, you have to play with that edge. And then you go into these rivalry games. When I was playing early, in my career, when I got to Hamilton, Montreal was on fire. They had a chippy running back, Avon Coburn, who liked to talk smack. And I got up for that matchup, and it just kept the fire going, right? So you have to, it's some self-discipline, right? The coaches kind of keep a grip on that, and you got your leaders on the team who who try to police that as well, right? Sometimes things get out of hand, but for the most part, you just try to channel that energy. I got 2 kids. I try to get them to channel their energy in the right way. So you got to have that self-discipline, and ultimately, like you said, you don't want to hurt your team and put the team in bad situations, right? Like I know a guy got kicked out. You don't want things like that to happen, right? He's trying to protect a teammate. Well, not by spitting, but but yeah, you just got to have that self-discipline and keep you and just keep you cool,
Yeah, very uncharacteristic there that in the moment by Cameron Kelly. But I think that's the first time all season that somebody else had to play Sam linebacker. So the consistency in that linebacker core, I know we kind of talked on this last time, but it's so important to continue to work with each other and grow, to learn how to play around and with each other through the season. So that's one thing that the Ticats kind of have locked down, really, and that's really their foundation of that defense is that linebacker, that core. So it's been great all season long.
Yeah. From what I'm seeing, and and up front as well, right? Like like I said, there's a well-coached team. You got 2 really, really good defensive minds who played in the game for a while, right? And have been coaching for a while with Coach O and a former teammate of mine, Mark Washington. And the group of guys, they got a lot of athletic guys. I really like this dude, Jagarrett Davis. Like I just like his athleticism. He's a fast, defensive lineman. Your boy Wynn had a really good half. He got 2 sacks, I think, in the first half. Right. So it starts up front, and then these guys are feeding off each other. They're building this chemistry game after game, and they've been playing really consistent. Football, consistently good football on defense all year, right? And I think they keep that up and going into these last 3 games, and it'd be nice to see the Ticats playing in not Ivor Wynn, but Tim Hortons Field in December, man.
Yeah, I remember going against you and Mark when you were still with BC before coming to Hamilton. But you mentioned Jagarrett Davis. Let me ask you something. In your time, were there as many zone blitzes as there are in today's day and age, where they have the defensive linemen out in zone and the linebackers going after the quarterback?
Yeah, from time, I think when I first got to Hamilton, Coach Greg Marshall was our defensive coordinator, and I really enjoyed playing in his defense. We had some pretty good athletes and guys who gave him the ability to run some of those. We ran a lot of zone blitzes in that defense. When I first got to the league in BC, Dave Ritchie used to run some of it too. But I think it's based on your personnel and what you guys can do. Coaches it's a coach's job to put their players in position and draw up scheme, schematically, things that can, show their abilities and maximize what they can do, right? And it keeps the offense on their toes, right? And like I said, just from the athleticism I've seen from this dude in the last few weeks is like I see him running down running backs. Like, guys can't even get to the sideline. They got big 56 running after him, right? So, it's great to see. And, I know that's been a part of Coach O's scheme. I know my last year in Edmonton, my only year I played under Coach O, we ran a bit of it too. And I think it's a testament to, the personnel department, getting the guys in that can fit that system and do the things that they want to do on defense. And these guys are executing at a higher level.
JJ with some high praise for JG. Jamall, thanks for checking in with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, fellas.
That is Alumnus Analysis with Jamall Johnson, and winning a Grey Cup with Coach Washington back in 2006 as teammates with the BC Lions. All right.
You think tonight was cold? That game was cold.
Yeah.
I was at that game. Natalie Furtado played the halftime show, I remember. But I was just driving back. I used to always drive out to Regina and drive back to Ontario, and I ended up stopping into Winnipeg to check it out for a few days. And boy, that game was cold. Not the coldest game I played in, but one of them.
Yeah, the 2000.
One of them I was at.
Sixth Grey Cup. Wally Buono's BC Lions beating Jim Pop's Montreal Alouettes in Winnipeg. The MVP that game. Do you remember?
I can remember Carl holding the cup, but I would guess G-Roy, but I don't know.
Dave Dickinson.
Oh, okay.
Dave Dickinson was the MOP. All right. This is what happens at Ticats 1:30 a.m. pregame. We're reminiscing about 2006 Grey Cups. Speaking of reminiscing and congratulating people, we're giving away a pair of gold seats to see the Ticats take on the Lions on Friday, November 5th. To enter, you can send us an email at gameday@ticats.ca. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Put the keywords King Kong Mosca in the subject line. King Kong Mosca in the subject line. Tell us your name, the city in which you live inside the email, and it's that simple. And to allow those who are listening live on stream as well as in podcast form to enter, the entry deadline is noon on Saturday, October 30th, and we'll randomly pick from all the entries. I'm talking to Dave right now over the headset here. Dave, it's 1:30 a.m. Let's give people a little bit longer than 12 noon tomorrow. All right, noon on Sunday. There we go, noon on Sunday, because give people a little bit more time. So the keywords, King Kong Mosca in the subject line, gameday@ticats.ca. All right, Andy, final thoughts here on a big win from Edmonton.
Well, I love the aggressiveness and the finish, and I mean the finish on every single play by this Hamilton team over the last two games. Completely different than the two previous games where they still were in control most of the game, but ended up losing at the last second. But even just from the get-go, the aggressiveness and physicality and nothing over the – well, there was a lot of penalties tonight. But, I'm specifically like I love I watch the receivers pretty diligent, like Stephen Jumbar Jr., Tim White, like those guys. Just their drive and their hunger. I love seeing that, and I like what Don Jackson said about this team, that how they all love each other, and that's what greatness is made of, and that's the kind of culture that I know Coach O. It starts from the top, but it comes down through the coordinators and the coaching staff, even from the front office into the football ops, but. I love to hear that, and it really warms my heart, and I can see this team really going on a run right now.
And you know what? I agree with you, and my final thought here is, again, I'm going to go back to Don Jackson, because I talked to him when he signed in 2020. I talked to him going into this season, and he's a guy who really wanted to be here. He's a guy who battled injuries in 2019 and was healthy scratched, wasn't able to find his way into the lineup for various reasons, ratio issues and things like that. And then he goes out there, first start, and he puts up 120 yards on 16 carries. He gets that touchdown in the end. I love how before I even got a chance, he was already shouting Louie. One of my favorite players on the Ticats team, and I'm really happy for him for a great game. And more importantly than that, if the Ticats have a consistent 100-yard rusher, I mean that's what this offense was missing in 2019, and it could be huge for the Ticats. Definitely something to watch. But Jeremiah Masoli, great game. We're wishing the best on all the Ticats who were hurt. Coach had mentioned that too. Just tons of injuries. It'll be an interesting week for sure. But thanks for joining us here tonight. The Ticats victorious in Edmonton. Hamilton 39, Edmonton 23. From all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, thanks for tuning in. We are back next week. 1 week from yesterday, since it's Saturday now. We are back next Friday when the Hamilton Ticats host the BC Lions. We'll talk to you then. From all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, have a great evening.